Hello, this is Brad with the Guitologist with another video today. In this video we're going to take a look at a 1962 Gibson GA-19RVT Falcon. This one is in the tweed covering. Unlike some of the other Falcons that I have featured on my channel, this one has the different earlier cosmetics. It also has a different earlier version of the circuit, which we will get into shortly. Like the later versions of the Falcon, this amp features both reverb and tremolo, which is nice to have in an amp. It has a volume and a tone knob as well, two inputs, two different channels actually, and a monitor here. For those counting, the serial number on this one, the first 5 digits at least are 13125, and then there's another digit after that. We do have a little bit of rust on the chassis, but it's not too bad. Interestingly, I have seen this phenomenon before in other Gibsons, this discoloration. I'm not sure what sort of oxidation or what chemical has caused that in some Gibson amplifiers, but I'm assuming it probably has to do with some kind of chemicals in someone's garage, perhaps, you know, where this might have been stored at one time and was exposed to something or other. You're seeing this in its completed state, so that's a new speaker, or not new, but it's a speaker from 1961 that I've put in there. The speaker that I got this amplifier with was blown, which we will see a little later in the video. But yeah, if this is something that you'd like to check out in more detail, stick around. Alright, here we are with this Falcon open, and as we can see, they have a neat little board here. So by the time this one came out, they had all the components pretty neatly laid out on these little terminal strip boards. And these are the same style of boards that you find in the later Crestline series amps. That one right there looks a little bit suspect to me. See that? I might reflow that solder. Yeah, everything looks pretty clean and original as far as these go. Yeah, this is definitely looking like Crestline era sort of components with this board and with these caps, these brown caps. Let's see, what does that say? Pactron. Pactron. These caps are usually fairly suspect. They are kind of notorious, at least on my bench. I'm not a huge fan of these little things. And if it looks like we're having problems, I might suspect some of these little caps. Other than that, it's fairly clean. I suppose. You know, as far as early 1960s amps go, somebody's definitely changed the electrolytics, as we can see here, and put some terminal strips in to install those on. One of our tubes has a broken guide, a broken key. So usually if that happens and it's inside the amp, that, I don't know exactly what that means, but I think it's that one right there. Yep, this one's broken off. So if the pins are misaligned and the amp is acting up, that might be a cause for sure. So that's automatically suspect. That's 6v6, and you can see it's kind of, here's the paint on this side, and the paint on the matching one is in a different spot, so I don't know. But then again, the plates look aligned, so we'll look into that. but just getting a look around here. There's the rectifier, 2-prong cord coming in, death cap still in place down there. You see that Sprague. That little bypass cap right there is original, so we might go ahead and replace that for the customer. This Sprague should be part of the tremolo circuit. I'm pretty certain of that. It probably goes from the depth control. Yep. Yeah, it goes from the depth control. I've had these go bad fairly often in Gibsons. So if the tremolo's not working, we may look at this first. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. I mean, definitely a transitional thing. If you look at some of the earlier 50s ones, they didn't have a board that was anything really like this. You know, it was more like an eyelet board with components laid out, but this is more like the Crestline era stuff. So yeah, that's a look at the inside of it. Let's go ahead and actually let's see what kind of tubes we have here. Set this aside. The board's actually, excuse me, the back panel. There's a little number there. I don't know what that means. 363. The back panel's in good shape, and it's plywood, not some press board like they started doing later on. There is our reverb tank down there, 1962. 9th week of 1962. So, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. There we go. See, that's upside down, but 6209, 1962, 9th week. The speaker is not original. I don't know if we can see that either down there, but let's see. See if I can actually get the damn thing to focus. There we go. 220s Jensen 739. So that could be a 1967 probably. Jensen, that is a C12S. The C12S, if I'm not mistaken, that S, the power handling on a C12S is less than an R, I think. I'll have to look that up, but I think the S is not going to have enough power handling really to handle, you know, 15 watts or thereabouts that these 6V6s should be putting out. So I might end up recommending to the customer he replaces the speaker. But let's see. Let's see what we have there. That's a Gibson labeled tube. And just out of curiosity, I want to see what it is. It's a 6EU7. So that's kind of like some of the later Crestline Falcons. And this one, interestingly, it has RCA written on it as well, on that tube. Right there. Let's see what other tubes we have here. Gibson label, that's probably 6EU7 as well. 6EU7. Another Gibson label, but in my experience that might be a 12AU. Let's see. This is before busting out the schematics. I haven't worked on one of these earlier Falcons. That's a 6EU. This is the first Tweed Falcon I will have worked on. Worked on a bunch of Crestlines though. As you guys I'm sure are aware, this might be the, let's see, that, yeah, that one might be the, no? Pardon me. This is the second tube. That is a 7199. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so that's a 7199 is a pentode triode in one tube envelope. So this should be, if that is what I think it is, and that's on the second channel, that pentode might be up front in that second channel, kind of like a GA-20T, and that one has a 5879 pentode up front on its second channel, kind of like the GA-40. So this could be a really awesome amp. With that $71.99, that's that puts it in a kind of a different class as far as I'm concerned. But I have not, to my recollection, seen a Falcon amp schematic with a $71.99. I'll have to do some digging. Let's do some digging and see if we can find a schematic. For right now, I'm going to bring it up slowly, or try to on a Variac, and just kind of see what it's doing, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, we're looking at my digital copy of the Gibson Amp Service Master Book, and we can see this is the version of the Falcon with the $71.99 in V2 position. So this is the version that we want. Everything is very similar to the later Crestline version, including the tremolo, the way it's set up. That's all the same. What's not the same is the absence of a tone-sucking network. So that is definitely different. It's also worth noting that the $71.99 is used exclusively in the reverb, with the pentode being on the uptake side of the reverb. One thing that could be modified if you wanted to get more bottom end out of this amp, this capacitor here could be enlarged to allow more bass frequencies through. So that's one thing that could be done. I think it sounds pretty great the way it is. The customer may disagree, so if he does and wants more bass frequency response, I can change this cap, and that should push a little more through. One weird quirk of this particular amp is the way that the tone knob is set up. If you turn it all the way down to the bass side, it actually cuts off all of the signal going through. So you have to, it actually pushes more gain through, so you have to actually have that up at least a little bit in order to get anything through. So it's just it seems to be a quirk of either this particular example or this model. But in the interest of not changing out that potentiometer just to solve that one little quirk, which the customer will probably never turn that all the way down anyway, I decided just to leave that in there until he instructs me otherwise. So anyway, there's the schematic. Okay, I have the chassis out of this thing. We're going to take a look at it in a second, but first let's check out the cabinet. This definitely still has the redwood sides. You see that? That looks to me like redwood. The earlier 50s amps all had redwood sides, and I believe that wood right there is solid redwood. So that's not a ply. I think that's a solid redwood. This gives us a little better look at the chassis as well, and the transformers. As you can see there, this one is a 166 62 19th week. It's a 524 on this one. GA-1810 524. This is 1962 14th week, and this one is 1962 14th week as well, and that's a GA-18P. So this is the original. These are all the original transformers for sure in this thing. With the latest date that I've seen so far being what, the 14th week of 1962, or the 19th week, pardon me, of 1962. The chassis is in pretty good shape. This is not pitting, this is just grime, and that will probably polish up real nicely. Probably be really pretty. You'll never see it because it'll be on the inside of the amp, but I may take a rag to it here in a minute just for the heck of it. But let's see, this will give us an opportunity actually. Before we fire this thing up, we need to check these tubes anyway. Let's make sure that they're in the right position. Alright, let's look.
Okay, this one still has a little bit of the key left, so that'll be pretty hard to get wrong. I don't think it was wrong. Yeah, that's the way that that one does go. So there was no problem with the tube position, the way it was inserted. So that's fine. Even though that key's broken off, there's enough of it left there that it shouldn't be a huge problem. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the chassis completely out of this thing and out on the bench, so we can just kind of maneuver it a little easier and fire it up on the variac. Okay, I did some cleaning on this thing, cleaned all the pots and cleaned the connections, the RCA connections going to the reverb tank, and it actually, everything seems to be working except now, and I thought everything was actually pretty clean and sounded okay for a second, but now everything is kind of just sounding real nasty. You'll see what I mean. If I hit a note on a guitar, let's see. There we go. Just gets a really nasty sound, and I think that might have something to do with that speaker. I think that speaker might be blown, but also it seems fairly noisy, but at the same time it's still on a two-prong cord, and it might have something to do with this fluorescent light right over the top of this. So when I turn it all the way down, though, it's really quiet. So I'm hoping that just a three-prong cord and maybe even some shielding on the back of this little panel, if necessary, will take care of any noise. But again, we have that real nasty tone out of that speaker, and that's it wouldn't surprise me if that speaker was blown, because that is a C12S, and the C12S I don't think has nearly enough power handling for this amp. So we need to find something that can handle, you know, up to what, about 15 watts or so, or at least 12 to 15 watts, and preferably a little higher if we can find something. But you know, something like I don't know, maybe a Jensen C12R will do the trick. I know it has more handling, I'm pretty sure, than the S. So let's yank that S out of there. Or, well, first let's test it with a different speaker and see if it's the speaker, in fact, that's blown. Okay, the overhaul of this Falcon is now complete. Pretty much I didn't have to do very much, actually. All I did was cleaned all the pots, cleaned the input jacks, cleaned the sockets, and also cleaned the contacts for the reverb tank on the input and output, and actually unplugged the RCA cables and cleaned the cable ends themselves as well. That cleared up a lot of the noise that I found that was associated with the reverb. Also, the original, or well, not the original speaker, but the speaker that was in here was this one, and it was a, looks like maybe a 67 C12S. Now a C12S is just much too low power handling, really, for you know, 12 to 15 watt 6v6 amplifier like this, push-pull. So I've installed a C12R, which I think should have enough power handling. This particular C12R, I believe, is from a 1965, or pardon me, it's a 1961 rather. We'll see down there, 2201 30th week of 1961. So that's right around the time, actually, that this amp was built anyway, so that's real close. And I believe this one came out of an organ. But we're ready to go with this thing. You know, again, it had new electrolytics anyway. I installed a three-prong cord, installed a retainer there for the cord on the side of the cabinet. It's going to keep anybody from tripping on the cord and yanking it out. I rewired it such that it now is up to more modern standards, with the hot lead going to the tip of the fuse holder, and then coming out of the fuse holder across to the switch here. and then on the other side of the switch it goes through the transformer, and then the other side of it, the transformer, goes directly to the white wire, which is the neutral, and they are shrink tubed together. I used a little zip tie here on the inside for retaining purposes here, which probably would suffice, but we went ahead and added the other retainer as well. We also used zip ties on the leads going to and from the reverb tank to get those just down out of the way. Originally there would have been some retainers attached to the speaker also, and just kind of cleaned everything up on the inside, but everything's ready to go now, and we're ready to give this thing a listen. 1962 Gibson Falcon from the very late Tweed era. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you guys haven't already done so, please hit subscribe to get more videos like this in the future, and y'all take care.